sure we got the right teams in the right room. We're looking for Boston, Marywood, and Wyoming. Present, present, present. So 2 nods. Pardon me?
We're still waiting for us in the Boston team.
Okay, they were supposed to go first.
Okay. They're like in the elevator.
Are we ready? We're ready. Do we want to change the order?
I'll think about that. I'll start with reading some of the instructions. I'll give them, well, it's 9 o'clock, so let's get started. Today we're going to do the 10-minute presentation. You've been called back by the company you gave a full presentation to yesterday for a second visit. They have asked you to speak only about the ethical aspects of the problem and to explain why your solution successfully handles any ethical issues. You will have 10 minutes. There will be no Q&A. You may not use slides or video. Okay? I will have a timer here. I will give you the 10 minutes and I will give a brief feedback at the end. I don't think I've worked with any of these groups before. My name is Stan Botts. I'm sorry, I should have said that first. Retired ethics officer from Verizon Communications. I've also been commissioner of Water Sewer Authority in Washington, D.C. and commissioner of occupational professional licensing for the state of Maryland. I've been doing this just shy of 20 years now with a few misses in there. So I've seen some of the teams before. Glad to see you here, and I wish you the best of luck. We will be selecting a first and second place winner from this division. So, is all the Boston team here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You made it.
Yeah, we made it.
All right. You can come forward. And since the instructions are so short, I will quickly go over them again. You've been called back by the company. You gave a full presentation to yesterday for a second visit. They've asked you to speak only about the ethical aspects of the problem and to explain why your solution successfully handles the ethical issues. You will have 10 minutes. There will be no Q&A. You may not use slides or video. Okay? So with that, I will get my little clock ready. And you are good to start.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Waddell, and this is Connor Desmond and Madeline Cortez. We're outside consultants. We want to thank you for your time, the Google Board of Directors, for listening to us speak. How does it feel when someone takes advantage of your intellectual interest? You sign up for a class and are really excited, until you find out that the professor wrote their own textbook and requires it for the class, and it's $300. Does it seem fair for one entity to control intellectual property in this way? Should you be forced to abide by these rules as a consumer of knowledge? Thanks for having us back. We're going to start talking by our ethical dilemma, offer a model and our potential solutions, choose the best solution, and then propose our decision. Your mission statement as Google is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Your code of conduct is only 3 words: don't do evil. Today, we want to continue the conversation about how Google Books operates and how as you plan to scan all 130 million books in existence.
So in order to address this case, we took a model from the Hastings Center on Bioethics, and it may seem a little strange to be using a bioethical model framework for this case, but we felt it made a lot of sense because this model takes into account a scientific approach. We felt that this aligns really well with Google because Google is a tech company and they both have scientific backgrounds. And we felt that people in a tech environment probably relate better to a bioethical model than something like a philosophical model, which would probably resonate better with legal minds, or a theological model, which would resonate better with religious people. Furthermore, we felt that this model itself better captured the complexity of with the evaluation step that I'll explain in a few moments. So this ethical model begins with the ethical question. We want to understand the dilemma and in all of its complexity. We then move on to the facts of the case. We want to know what we know and what we don't know and put the whole case into context. Then we move on to the stakeholder and values. We want to address what their needs are, what their wants are, and what they really do value at the end of the day. Finally, then we move on to the solutions phase, generating multiple solutions, taking into account things that we've already talked about, including the stakeholders, and seeing what would be in their best interest. Then we move on to our decision. We choose which solution we think will be the best, taking into account the advantages and disadvantages of each solution. Finally, we end with the action and evaluation plan, and it's up to you, Google, to follow through on the recommendations that we give and continue to evaluate the solution, to evaluate the action as you go forward. Again, this is the reason that we felt this would be a better model, considering that Google is in a very changing and modern digital sphere. The question or dilemma that we determined in this case was pretty in-depth. Google is undertaking a very large project with the Google Books project. You've essentially created a monopoly in the digital sphere with high barriers to entry that prevent and perhaps make it difficult or unnecessary for other companies or organizations to step in. So the question is, does this power advance Google's mission to make information universally accessible and useful, or does it potentially limit accessibility whenever it's in Google's best interest to do so?
So as Madeline mentioned, a lot of the central facts in this case are circled around the idea that Google has effectively created a de facto monopoly because you are the first mover in this space, and because there are many high barriers to entry, including the fact that you've already scanned over 13 million books at this point and developed a lot of proprietary technology that helps you to accomplish the task of scanning very, very quickly. Additionally, there have also been a lot of partnerships established, and there's a lot of publicity around this project, and a lot of people are already using this project. And as Madeline mentioned, there's a potential that there might not be seen as a necessary interest for creating very strong competition to the Google Books model. There are a couple concerns that arise around any sort of monopoly. And so the first one is the power over all of the data that Google has collected. You have an enormous amount of data available to you, and certainly if you are able to, when you are able to scan all of the books in the world, this creates a vast library of resources for which Google is responsible for curating all of that content. And so there are some concerns that could arise with the potential for censorship. Now we know that you, as the board of directors of Google, would never want to institutionalize any sort of practices like this, but Google is a very large organization, and there are a lot of varying interests within Google. And so there's the potential that if any new content should arise that speaks out against your organization or some of the work that it's doing, that some people might take it upon themselves to censor this material or to, in other ways, work to adjust algorithms or the process which you're using to select these books. Additionally, having a monopoly means that this isn't a very collaborative process. There's really no opportunity for other groups to become involved, and although there are some other projects attempting similar tasks, they certainly do not have any real chance of competing with Google given the resources and the progress that you've already made. Additionally, there's the fear with a monopoly that you could potentially be appropriating the works of others. Because there's such an enormous power imbalance between all of the resources, legal, financial, and public, behind the Google corporation, there's little chance for redress should any authors feel that they have been wronged in any way, whether that's through the alteration of their material, through potential censorship, or any other concerns that they may have. Additionally, there's a potential with the monopoly to dissuade the creation of new content. And this is certainly something that we know that Google would not want, and something that's certainly not in the best interest of the public, because without the creation of this new learning and this new material, we would have a difficult time advancing as a society. So next I'd like to move into a brief analysis of the various stakeholders of the Google Books project. The first one is the management of Google. The first thing that we really looked at when we analyzed some of your values was a recent statement from Larry Page with the creation of Alphabet, the parent company for Google Inc., and sort of the restructuring of Google as a whole. He said that he wanted to increase transparency and oversight throughout the entire organization, and we think that this shows a willingness within your organization to undertake a lot of these ethical challenges, and something that we believe will resonate well with some of the recommendations we're going to present at the end of this presentation. Additionally, of course, you are interested in increasing your market share, improving your customer experience, and maintaining the excellent reputation that Google has accumulated. The next major stakeholder is, of course, the shareholders. Those are the owners of Google stock. And they're interested in increasing the value of the stock while at the same time minimizing any risk that is associated with it. The next major stakeholder group is the authors and the publishers. They're interested in maintaining the ownership of the rights of their material, the integrity of the work that they've created, and receiving adequate compensation for all of the work and effort that they've put into creating their publications. Finally, the last stakeholder group is really the public. Their interest is really the ease of access of information, and this is certainly why Google was created. It's to connect people with data. And so they're certainly very interested in the integrity of this project, and also transparency about how this data is being collected and how this project is connecting them with the information that they're looking for. So with that, we'd like to present the 3 potential solutions that we investigated as we completed this project. The first potential solution that we investigated was to turn over Google Books, or at least part of the project, to another organization like the United States government or the Open Content Alliance, which is one of Google's main competitors in this digital space. We felt that this might be in the interest of some of the stakeholders because it would create a monopoly in competition, or it would help dissolve some of the monopoly that's been created and increase competition, which might be in the best interest of some of the authors because they might feel that they had more power for redress and might help to create more of a competitive environment. Our second potential solution was continuing business as usual. This is certainly in the best interest of the Google management team. And the third solution that we provided was to potentially improve the operations of Google Books through an information audit or the creation of a task force that could increase the transparency around the project.
So after evaluating these possible solutions that Connor outlined, we came to a final decision that was to improve the way that Google Books operates. And the reason that we chose this solution in particular was because we felt it best maximizes the interest of the stakeholders, while also keeping in mind while also preventing unethical censorship, limitation to access, as well as appropriation of the work of authors. So how are we going to implement this decision? So we, as Connor mentioned, we want to create a task force. So this will include a traditional type of audit from companies, like external companies such as KPMG or Deloitte.
30 seconds.
Okay. It'll include a traditional audit using tech groups who can evaluate the algorithms, the process, as well as potential censorship. We'd also like to create a platform that allows the authors to be able to complain about any potential issues that they have with Google Books. We think that this solution, in particular, the platform, is beneficial because Google does have the power to bring people together and provide information for those who need it.
Thank you, and please consider your power and work towards making information accessible without taking advantage of the interests of your users. Emily Dickinson once said, "I know nothing in the world that has as much power as a word." As Google Books inspires and educates the world through words, please continue to do no evil. Thank you.